All right, welcome back, YouTube. We got the video I promised here last time, which is going to be how to collect Republican Romans. So this has kind of been a live and learn thing for me. This was the first ancient army I collected and painted, and I'm still technically not done with them because I decided to update the scope of the project. Needless to say, this is also probably my most favorite period of history. I studied this in college. Early Republican Roman history, going all the way to the Macedonian Wars, like just really fascinates me, especially the Punic Wars and the Samnite Wars and the conquest of Italy, that whole era. So I have a really big passion and interest in this subject. Uh, just I'm constantly reading about this. Just this is what I like. So I'm not surprised that I've came back to this. When I originally did the army, I wanted to get a army fast on the table to play with my friend Holy Diver. So I didn't put a lot of forethought into exactly how I wanted it, precisely how I would want it in the future. I just wanted, it was like, okay, let's just get 200 miniatures painted on the table so I could start playing games with him. And that's what I did. But now that I'm coming back to it, this is how I want it to be for the rest of my gaming life. So as you guys can see right here, this is a nice little spreadsheet here. We got, and this will be good. You could technically use this from 509 BC all the way up to 100 BC. To the Marian reforms era when the Roman army more or less became a professional army equipped by the state. Now there's some caveats in there. Earlier Roman armies were hoplite armies. They would have had aspices. Uh, but or Clipius if you're speaking Latin. But that's okay. I'm willing to sacrifice that historical accuracy to have an army that I can game with. My Triarii, Principes, and Hastati all have the oval scutum, which would have been more indicative of probably after 3rd century and later. The Triarii probably would have been more equipped like hoplites, and then slowly evolving to match the rest of the army. And then straight up, all the way through the 5th century, Rome more than likely had a hoplite core army that they evolved to the Triarii. It's a lot of gray area. It's not like on this date they changed. There's a lot of gray area in there. Now, with that said, if you want to really represent early Roman hoplite armies, just use your Greeks. Like straight up, just use armored Greeks, and they can be the core of. And I have several units of Greek hoplites that I can just say, oh, these are, really early Republican Roman hoplites, right? They have spears, they have Clipiuses, they have bronze armor. Bam, they're good to go. With that said, we'll go through here. Triarii, I have 2 units of 18. Honestly, I might bump or 2 units of 16. I That's what I have painted right now. It's kind of a wonky number. It doesn't really make for, in most game systems, I can't really take advantage of having like a hoplite rank bonus. So I need to figure out what I want to do with that. But regardless, 36 is what I have. You could do 2 units of 28 in your ratios. You can play with your ratios. The classic Polybian, everyone gets hung up as like, oh, this is the classic Polybian legion. This is how it has to be. Let me tell you, these armies weren't all congruent. They were not all identical. And then especially if you take in campaigning and the fact that your Hastati probably took more casualties than your Triarii. So by the end of a campaign, you're going to have less Hastati. All right, that's just how it is. These ratios are not a finite thing. You don't need to have twice as many Principes and Hastades as Triarii, 3 times as more. Like, these numbers can be fluid. I would still say definitely most rule systems are going to require you to have more Hastade and Principes than Triarii, but don't get hung up on the ratios too much. In all honesty, I could probably do, uh, you know, if I had more Principes or Hastati, I could have more Triarii, and I might do that in the future. But for right now, on the Triarii front, I have 36, and then I have 24 Principes and 24 Hastati. That allows me to do 2 units of 24. Okay, and that's the core of any Republican Roman army there. Now, we're not sure that you see Riorii here. Sword point makes you have Riorii if you're going to bring Triarii. You got to have like 1 for every 3 or 4 bases, something like that. So that's why I have them there. We're not too sure what Riorii are in this early Republican period because there's only like 1 or 2 passages that even mention them in Livy, I believe. Maybe even Polybius. But it just essentially states they like kind of were assisting the Triarii in the back of the lines. So we don't know if they were stretcher bearers. We don't know if they were skirmishers. We don't know if they were lightly armed spearmen. That's how I chose to represent them. That's how most people choose to represent them. But we really don't know. And then Riorii became something of a magisterial assistant in the later periods, in the late Republic and Imperial periods. So little haziness there. Depending on your role system, you might have to have these. I've chose to include a small unit of 16 because if I play Sword Point, I technically have to have them. Now, with that said, I've been playing Sword Point for a while and I didn't have any. So, and these guys essentially are just shields and spears. That's what they're supposed to have. Your Triarii, they're going to be your guys, obviously, in your heavy bronze armor, your Principes, well, and if the later the period gets, Lorica Hamada too. Principes can have pectorals and Lorica Hamada, and then your Hastade are going to be unarmored, or with just a simple pectoral plate for them there. And then for essentially your support, your light troops and your cavalry, your leves are going to be javelin men with shields. I got a unit of 12 in there, typically how I do my skirmishers in units of 12. Your Akinci, these guys are going to be trash. They're going to have javelins with these are your poorest classes of citizens right here. These two right here, technically slingers are Akinci, but I just put them as slingers so that way you guys wouldn't be confused. They can have javelins or slings, no shield, no other equipment typically, and I got just 2 units of 12 in there. You may not bring both in a game, but it's good to have the option to switch them out if you need to. And then for later Republican, for the later Polybian legions from the late Second Punic War and after, all of these light troops, the assortment of light troops you see here, the Riorii, the levies, the Akinci, they all got replaced by the Velates. And the Velates were just essentially essentially they're a peltast. They had javelins, they had shield, they had a sword, sometimes a helmet. But these were your youngest, fittest guys that could kind of be the vanguard and screen and stuff like that. And I have 2 units of 16 in there. You could do, in all honesty, if you wanted to go with the classic Polybian style Legion on paper, you could do 2 units of 24 to match that up. And then that would, that'd bring you another, you'd have another that'd be 48 miniatures, so that'd bump you up to 250, right? Cavalry, Roman legions were typically really light on cavalry. They only had 300 to 500 cavalry typically. Typically, nothing's finite in ancient history. I guarantee you some armies probably had extra units of cavalry in them. Maybe some had less. Who knows? But I chose to do a unit of 12 equites. And Roman armies were not known for their cavalry. They weren't like Macedonian or successor armies, didn't have heavy shock cavalry. Typically, these guys can either have spears or javelins. Their equipment probably got heavier over time with the influence of the Greek stuff. So if you want to do a really, really early army, maybe you just get more lighter, lighter unarmored guys, and if you go later, maybe they can have chainmail or full-on muscled cuirasses with with shields. Around the Punic Wars, they probably would have had the round shield with the metal spine going down it. But you can also do them with the small pelta type round shields that the Greeks used. I think that would be completely acceptable. Maybe even hoplons, or I don't like that word, but the aspis or the clipius, because we have seen in art in the iconography as well from southern Italy, central Italy, and Greece that sometimes you saw dudes on horses which are clearly aspis shields, clearly. And then just to finish it out, two commanders. One of these guys would be mounted, and one of these guys would be on foot. And that would be that. That's a consular legion right there. That's a Roman consular legion. There are no socii in this. I have a separate Socii legion. I'm building two separate Socii legions. I'm going to have an Etruscan one and a Oscan / Samnite one, because that'll allow me to do Romans versus Samnites, and then also allow me to have Samnites as allies to the Romans and to the Carthaginians. Same thing with the Etruscans. So I plan on having a Roman legion, an Etruscan legion, and a Samnite / Oscan legion in there. So you can tell how much I really like this period. So now that's the composition of the army. We're looking at 234 miniatures. Not that big of an army for me, but like I said, I plan on doing two other allied legions. And then if you're not playing a super large game, you can just tack on an allied unit of Socii. Whether it's Volscians, Samnites, Etruscans, whatever. If you just want to add in another couple units of those guys in there, you can. Or you can bring in a whole nother 200-person legion, which would be like a 400 miniature game, right? Really, most people can't play that large games because that requires a pretty large table. But you could do that. I typically, when me and Holy Diver play, we usually have around 200 miniatures each on the table. So this would be perfect for that because realistically, I won't bring all of these skirmishers. One of these would probably, one or two, I'm either going to bring the levies and the Riorii, or I'm going to bring just the Velates, right? So we're really only looking about 200 on the table, but you want to have options to switch out on your army, depending on the time frame of the battle you're playing. So going into manufacturers, we have a lot more options than with the Persians. The Persians are kind of like the Achaemenid Persians are kind of like the bastards of the gaming world, but with Vitrix stepping up, maybe not so. So I'm going to start with my least favorite in the plastic world here, and that's of course Warlord Games. You guys are probably seeing the trend by now. They don't really have a Republican. They have a late Republican Roman line, and it's these guys right here. They're plastic. Their cavalry are metal. I own the cavalry. That's these guys down here. They're okay miniatures. They're on the small side, and they're quite pricey. That's a decent amount of money for a unit of 12. I mean, you might as well just go with Foundry or Aventine at that point. Same thing. They got commands and metal and some little extra bits there, characters and whatnot. But these are the core of your legions. You can't really, you can't really use these guys for straight up early Republican because these guys have oval scutum, but they're all in chainmail. So you could use them for Principes. There's nothing wrong with using these guys for Principes and then sourcing Hastade and Triarii later down the road. I don't think they come with spears. They only have Pilum. So, you'll have to, if you want them to be armed with spears, you'd have to source spears, but then you're probably going to run into ranking issues. I wouldn't go this option anyways because Vitrix is already a better deal and you get more in the box and you get what you need. So with that said, let's go on to Vitrix, Republican Romans. Now I have a lot of these guys, and they're good. They're pretty good. They have a really comprehensive line, and you can see here Republican Roman army deal. This is really good. I mean, they even have this is straight up set up for a for the Second Carthaginian War, you could really do Zama. This is pretty much set up for Zama. You have a core of Romans and Italians, and you got some Samnites, you got your Roman cavalry, and you got your Numidian cavalry. That is straight up 256 figures. It doesn't have the price on there, but I bet you it's a screaming deal. So if you just straight up wanted to do Punic Wars, bam, right there, and you're good to go. You got your Socii, you got your Numidians, you got your Romans. I have these two box sets, the Roman Italian allies that I just use as Romans, and then I have the guys with the Lorca Hamada there. So pretty cool. They're 60 figure box sets. They have plenty of commands. They have spears. They have javelins. They have pilum. You can do them with swords. Really great option. I liked them. They were pretty good to paint. They turned out nicely. That's what they look painted up. I painted mine in a pretty similar fashion, actually. But yeah, that's what they look like. I use these guys for Triarii and Principes. And then I use these guys. Obviously, I made the light guys, these light guys. I actually didn't make any Velates out of my Vetrix Roman sets I bought. But you can see here, this is already twice. This is already half. You're getting 60 figures as opposed to 24, and it's $1 cheaper than Warlord's website. There's no reason why you would get the Warlord. I mean, the figures are better too. I don't care. Like these are superior figures. That's what the sprue looks like. You get that is actually not, that's the command sprue, and then that's the actual sprue guy, the sprue there. You get two unarmored guys, and you could use these guys for Hastati if you wanted to. I actually did use a handful of them for Hastati. So when I was done filling out my leves and my Akinse, I used some of these guys. I just put the helmeted heads and give them swords or pilum, and they became Hastati. So nothing wrong with that. They don't have pectorals. That's okay for Hastati, especially early ones. And then these guys were my Principes. And then I use this set to mix them in, because these guys are going to have pectorals. As you can see here, some of them are going to have the triple disc pectoral, some of them are going to have the short muscled pectoral, and then some of them are going to have the full-on muscled cuirass. So you can use those guys for your Triarii, and then these guys can be used for your Principes, and they even got the guys with a single disc, I believe. I know they do because I own this set. They're not showing them. But this is a good example of how you would use these guys, the unarmored guys, to turn them into Hastati. You just give them a pilum, you give them a helmet and a sword, and there you go. Those are your Hastati. 60 figure set again, fully supported with little big man transfers. Great set. I mean, those guys just paint up good. Obviously, this is the website's painter, so they paid a really good painter to do this. You can really multi-pose them. I actually wish I would have now with the shields. I didn't even think to turn my shields sideways like that for guys throwing javelins and stuff. I really wish I would have. But that is that. And then this is essentially the same set with just different variations on the pectoral. These have square pectorals instead of round pectorals. It really doesn't matter. Romans would have used both. You can see here they have the square pectorals instead of the round ones. Your choice. I guess if you want them to be quote unquote more Roman, you would use this set. And then they got the Republican Roman Cavalry set. This will, like I said, these guys would be good for probably later post Samnite Wars, or maybe even Samnite Wars cavalry. They're going to have that round shield with the spine, and all these guys. Looks like actually, it looks like all of them. I don't own this set. All of them are in that Lorca Hamada. So, and you can give them spears or you could give them javelins, which is very nice. And once again, you got shield transfers, and those are bitching. Those are awesome looking shield transfers. So, you're really supported that way. If you're going to do plastics, this is the way to go. because War Games Atlantic doesn't have any sets. And look, I mean, you got all of those shield transfers to choose from. So great option. Next one is the Romans, and you can see here you have a couple different options. Some of these can, you can blend some of these. You got Republican Romans here, and these are sculpted by Mark Copplestone, so they're going to be good. And you can see here you got your Triarii, you got Skirmishers, you got your Velates, you got Hastade with swords, so they're going to have pectorals and no armor. You got your Hastade throwing, Hastade advancing, and then you got penal legions. This is something specific to the Second Punic War. We could also use these guys as early Hastate. Hasta is the Latin word for spear. We don't know at what point Hastade started carrying pilum, but originally they probably were spearmen, lightly armed spearmen. You could also use these guys for Riorii. Nothing wrong with that. And then they obviously have some cavalry as well. And if you want to get really nitty gritty, you can also include some sappers into your army, because Romans did have a corps of sappers in their legions. And then there's some supply carts there. These guys here, yeah, these guys would be more suitable for Principes. They have pectorals and Lorca Hamada there, the chainmail. So just go through. It's not that big of a range. They have a couple different cavalry, and I think the rest of this is all allies stuff. So these would be great figures. I don't own any, but I do own a lot of Foundry's other ancient lines, and I like them a lot, especially this Steve Salas stuff. Probably the best metal manufacturer for ancients is going to be First Core. They have a extremely comprehensive range, and they have their awesome army deals. As you can see here, you can just come in here, you get the big army deal, and it's damn near what you need, just like the Persians. You get 4 units, 16 of Hastade, 4 units of Principes, and then 32 Triarii plus Velates, plus 2 units of Cav. So right there, you're ready to go pretty much Roman Legion for Punic War. Now on top of that, they have even more. My internet's being slow. You can come in here, they have unit deals, and you can be like, oh, I want unarmored guys, armored guys, different kneeling, attacking, advancing, and then they also have penal legions, which I am using for Riorii. They have a mix of various scutum and Celtic shields. They're all mixed in there, and they have spears with helmets. I feel like that is perfect for Riorii. That is what I'm doing for Riorii. Not even 15 pounds for 16. So another little great option for you there. If you really like metal miniatures and you just want to do a one-stop shop, probably right here, to be all honest. And then you got Crusader. Crusader doesn't have a huge line, but they do have a decent amount. They have various, and I own some of these guys. I own some of the Hastade, and they mix well in with the Aventine and the plastic Vetrix sets. A little bit chunkier than Vetrix, but they work really well with Aventine. And you can see here, you got your Hastade, you got guys in chainmail that you can use as Triarii or Principes, various commands. You got leves, and then you also got cavalry, various cavalries. This is actually kind of nice. They have unarmored and armored cavalry here, a commander version, and then like a cool little camp set with like sappers and, you know, kit setup and stuff. And then if you wanted, you could also use these guys for your Riorii, because they have various Celtic shields, they have helmets, they have spears. They can be used as Riorii as well. Not a bad option. But yeah, that's Crusader. My favorite manufacturer is Aventine. Unfortunately, they're revamping their entire early Italian line. So you can see here, if I click into this, there's nothing there, and they've taken all of their Allied Republican Roman Legion, Etruscans, and Republican Romans have been removed until they revamp the line. Now I own a lot of these guys as well. I own over 100 of these guys, and they are awesome. This is my favorite miniature manufacturer. These guys are amazing. They're expensive, but I mean, I just think they're worth every penny. I mean, the detail and the accuracy they put into their figures is second to none. I absolutely love these figures, and they blend in really well with the Steve Sala Foundry stuff and the Crusader stuff. Like you can mix them, no problem. And they are of that chunkier style, which I like because they're just such a joy to paint. I cannot stress how much I love Aventine. I wish I could show more off, but they've taken down the line. Next, you got Gripping Beast. Gripping Beast does do metal figures. Now they're pretty hard into their saga stuff, which is going to be skirmish based and it's going to be small packs. But as you can see here, they have the pole mark. They used to. Okay, I guess you can't view the pole mark. Well, this is just bizarre. I can't view anything. Okay, here we go. Their website's glitched. You can see here these are their metal line guys here. Um, they're pretty much on par with any of the other metal manufacturers as far as pricing. You get 4 guys for £7. Probably actually a little bit more expensive, but they have a really comprehensive range. You got various guises and poses, your Hastade, your Principes, commands. They even have command figures, Cretan archers, and then your Velates and your Leves. So pretty comprehensive range. And then on top of that, they got Italian allies, Carthaginians, and mercenaries that you can throw in there. Some of these mercenaries are perfectly suitable to be used as that. And then they at some point they bought out Polemark miniatures, and they have a successor line, and you can mix some of these guys in, particularly some of these skirmishers here. You can use these guys as a Kensei and Leves, no problem. If you could even if you could even use some of these guys, these Therakites as Principes. There's no reason why you couldn't just give them Pelum or give them a spear if you want them to be Triarii, and you could use these guys as Romans. No reason to. I mean, they have oval scutum and they have chainmail. They have Attic style helmets, Chalcidian style helmets, but honestly, the Romans would have had all of those types of equipment as well, because trade went on across the Mediterranean, and we see all sorts of helmets. If they're wearing Boeotian helmets, there's no reason why they wouldn't be wearing Attic or Chalcidian style helmets as well. So that's a choice. I own some of their cavalry figures. Their figures are okay. They're definitely not Aventine quality. They have a lot of cleanup. I give them like a C plus as far as metal manufacturers. Like, they're workable. They're not awful, but they're not going to blow your mind. You're not going to be like, let me go to Gripping Beast and spend a shit ton of money on Gripping Beast stuff. I don't own any of the Polemark stuff, so I can't speak to that. But I do own a decent number of the Punic War metal line here, primarily cavalry. So, yeah. Size wise, they fit in fine. I think the size wise, they're okay with Vitrix, no problem. You can mix them in pretty decently. The last manufacturer I want to highlight here is Relic. Relic has these guys are going to be taller and skinnier. They're not of the chonky style. They're of the more anatomical proportion size here. As you can see here, they have oh, they just added pictures. Wow, they didn't have pictures of these guys forever. I own these guys. I have 24 of these guys. They're going to be part of my Oskin Legion because they're straight up Oskin. If you look at them, they look like Sam Knights. But they also have, these armored Cretan guys. They have Hastade, a couple units, a couple different kinds of Hastade. They don't have Triarii, I don't think. They have Principes. Not a lot to choose from. Oh, they do have Triarii, but like I said, not a lot to choose from. They do have a lot of cool character and officer figures. I own 16 of their Velates that I'm going to be painting up here shortly. I own the Scipio Africanus. I own some of the officers. I own some of the mounted stuff, so I could do commands. So yeah, I mean, not bad figures. I give these slightly better than Gripping Beast. So I like these slightly better. I wish they were of the Aventine / Foundry style, the chonky, the shorter, chonkier, but they're taller and skinnier. The sculpting quality is okay. They're just different, and just know that they're different if you're wanting to mix or have completely separate units. I wish they had more unit deals. For some reason, they have a unit deal for Cavalry, and then they have a unit deal for levies. It'd be nice if they had that for like Hastade and Principes and Triarii too, because that's a cool little deal right there. 16 skirmishers, and you can use, and like it says down here, you can use these as Romans, Hellenistic Greeks, Illyrians. There's really no reason why you can't use these for a bunch. I mean, they have hats, they have little bucklers, they have javelins. So, I mean, that could be anybody. So, I haven't actually painted any of these miniatures yet. I got 50 of them, or 50 odd so of them to paint. This one looked really cool. I had to get this. I was like, Scipio Africanus bashing in some Iberian dude. Like, I had to get that. So I can't wait to paint that one. He'll just be a special figure for when I do second Punic War stuff. He'll be my Scipio guy. So that's it for manufacturers. Of course, you have like your other your Essex and some of those other guys that sell singles or have like really small ranges. But as far as like comprehensive ranges, I feel like this is it. The most comprehensive being Vetrix and First Corps. So if you're wanting to go just a one-stop shop, I'd recommend those two manufacturers. If not, you can do what I did. I have units from half my army's Vetrix, half my army is Aventine. Oh, Aventine's very comprehensive as well. Extremely comprehensive. They're down right now. You can't get them. If I was to do it all over again, I would 100% just did the whole army Aventine or First Corps. Because I got a little, I have half the army from Vetrix, I have half my army from Aventine, and then I got some Gripping Beasts sprinkled in there, and a little bit of Crusader sprinkled in there, and then a little bit of Relic sprinkled in there. So, well, maybe 30% Vetrix, 30% Aventine, and 30% the rest. But you guys get what I'm saying. So that's kind of how I build my ancient Republican Romans there. These are kind of like my babies. So, oh look, they want me to buy things. I'm good. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, or if I left out a really good manufacturer, just put them down below, and help out our fellow gamers so they can build some badass ancient armies. Till next time.